The Trump administration recently announced a major trade deal with Taiwan, lowering tariffs while securing billions in new energy, aircraft, and technology purchases. It also comes as tensions with Beijing continue to rise, from nuclear expansion to a CCP invasion of sorts here at home. Joining us now to discuss is China expert and best-selling author Gordon Chang. Gordon, always great to see you, sir. Thanks for joining us. Under this new deal, Taiwan agrees to purchase more than $80 billion of U.S. goods, also eliminates or reduces 99% of its tariffs on the U.S. In return, the U.S. is also going to lower most tariffs to Taiwan to 15%. Talk about how important this deal was to strengthen supply chains and also send a message to Beijing.
This certainly sends a message to Beijing, and it says that the United States is behind Taiwan, because this comes after the December announcement of an $11.2 billion arms package for Taiwan, and that's the biggest ever. All of this means, when you put it together, is that China is now starting to think that maybe its rhetoric about Taiwan, about historical inevitability of annexing the island, that sounds a little bit hollow right now, because the U.S. is there to protect the island.
And it also comes as satellite images show new construction and upgrades at China's nuclear sites. How concerning is this buildup?
Well, China is on the fastest nuclear buildup in the world right now. It is not willing to talk to the United States about arms control, and that means it's not. It was very good for the Trump administration to not continue the New START agreement with Russia. That's an arms control agreement with Russia. China was not a part of it, and that means the world's major arms control architecture is really now in tatters because the Chinese refusal to talk to anybody about it.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about some of these latest reports that we're seeing with House lawmakers investigating nonprofits here in the U.S. accused of spreading CCP propaganda. Obviously a huge threat to national security if we're seeing foreign money, CCP money, flowing through American nonprofits to shape protest movements and media narratives. What do you know about this?
This has been going on for quite some time, especially when you look at the 2020 national election. China had a big influence in the Democratic Party primaries and in the general election. This is, and maybe you could say they even had the deciding vote. The point is, you see a lot of Chinese activity directed at the American political system from the top to the bottom.
And the State Department linking left-wing groups, we're talking Code Pink, the People's Forum, to Chinese influence operations. And now, the government's vowing complete transparency about these donor networks. But Gordon, how can we prevent the CCP from infiltrating our organizations, our schools, our universities, our businesses, our government?
The most important thing is for the President of the United States to talk about this. The Chinese leader talks about going to war all the time, but we Americans think we're at peace. So we need President Trump to actually talk about the situation we are in, because there are these donor networks. The ones you referred to are centered around Neville Roy Singman, an American billionaire who lives in Shanghai. And he is very closely linked to the CCP because he amplifies their narratives. So this is just investigation of them, but also we need a new awareness that this is a very consequential moment.
Finally, I want to ask you about removing CCP influence at the Panama Canal, a significant step demonstrating Trump's global influence to Xi Jinping. Why do you think it took so long for Panama's Supreme Court and Panama's government to remove companies that had clear ties to the Chinese Communist Party?
Yeah. First of all, the United States welcomed China into Latin America, and that was, going back into the middle of last decade. So countries naturally ended up with these very strong trade and investment ties with China. If anyone's at fault, it's us, because we opened the door. But now President Trump is moving in the opposite direction. And it's important for him to do so because we see pretty malign activities on the part of the Chinese, the Russians, and the Iranians throughout Latin America, threatening the United States directly.
China expert and best-selling author Gordon Chang. Always a pleasure to talk to you, sir. Thanks so much for joining us here on the National News Desk. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jan.